Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster Smart Diode Kit. Before we do that though, let's take a minute, check these out and make sure they're going to work for you. Right off the bat, I do want to address the biggest question that we get asked in regards to setting up a flat tow, and that's what parts am I going to need? It's going to be a total of 5 main components. You have your base plate, which allows you to attach a tow bar to, which that's the second component, and that's the actual link that connects your coach to the front of your vehicle. Third main part, safety cables. These are just there in the event of an unlikely disconnect, keep you paired together. Fourth main part will be tow bar wiring, and this is going to send the lighting functions from the back of your coach to the back of your Jeep, keeping you safe and legal. And last but not least, the fifth main part will be a supplemental braking system. And what this is going to do is hit the brakes in your Jeep whenever you hit the brakes in your RV, bringing you to a more predictable stop. So with that done, this is a perfect example on how the diode kit is going to work. You know, in our case, we have our hazards going. The signals are being sent here to the back of your Jeep. And that's going to hold true for, you know, your right turn, your left turn, your tail lights, as well as your brake lights. So you have all of your bases covered there. And when it comes to setting up wiring on the Grand Cherokee L, you know, you got the smart diode kit like we're using, and then you have regular diodes. If I were to recommend something, this would be the kit, and I say it because sometimes the regular diodes can work in certain scenarios if your Jeep is equipped with, you know, certain features and whatnot. But the smart diode kit, as long as your taillights are LED, which I believe the majority of these Grand Cherokee Ls, they should be, as long as they're LED, the smart diode kit's going to work across the board. So it kind of simplifies things and, you know, doesn't leave any room for error, if you will. With that said, you know, a smart diode or diode kit in general is what I always recommend when it comes to setting up, you know, tow bar wiring. And I say it because once everything's installed, you're not going to even know it's there, right? It looks factory almost. And the setup time is extremely easy. When you're ready to hook up, you're just going to have to plug a cable in to the front of your Jeep and the back of your motorhome. So here at the front, this is what I was talking about. You plug one in there, and that's all the signals are going to get sent back. And there is 2 different variations of this kit. One of them will come with the wiring, the connectors, and some of the ins and outs that you're going to need to get it installed. And then the other kit will come with those same parts, but with that one you'll receive this coiled cable and the 6-way round connector here. What kit you're going to need really just depends on what tow bar you have, really. So for example, some of the tow bars come with this cable and 6-way connector, like the Roadmaster Nighthawk, for example. So if that's what you have, you can get the kit, this diode kit, that is kind of just a bare bones. You know, it doesn't come with these 2 parts. However, if your tow bar didn't come included with the cable and the 6-way, like our Blue Ox Avail here, then that would be the kit you'd want. You know, you'd get the cable, the connector, and all the other parts to make everything work. When it comes down to it though, this is a really good matchup for the Grand Cherokee L. We've done quite a few of them here, and it's extremely rare that we ever run into any issues with them. So it seems to be pretty reliable and get the job done. Now, as far as the installation goes, it's really not too bad. It's not that it's really complicated or anything. It's definitely time consuming though, just having to route wires, you know, from the front all the way to the back, but something you do one time and then you have that ease of use from there on out. If it's something you'd rather not mess with though, I completely understand that. You can always use our dealer locator, and that can help you find a shop that can set it up for you. But if you are going to do it yourself, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead, pull into the garage, and get started on it now. To begin our installation for our diode wiring, you know, we're doing this at the same time that we're doing our base plate. You know, because with the fascia off, it gives us a lot more room to work, makes it easier to see and route wires and everything. But it can be done with the fascia on if you're doing it later. But very first thing you want to do is take one end of the wiring harness, and we're going to drop it down through the engine compartment to the front of our base plate. And I want to say too, if you're going to be installing other components, for example, a battery charge line kit that'll get routed to the same location. Now would be a great time to run that wiring as well. I got our wiring dropped down, and here's where it comes out. And when you're doing any type of wiring or routing stuff like this, you want to do your best to avoid any hot, moving, sharp parts, things like that. But it just comes right down over to here, and it's all loosely routed now. Of course, at the end, we'll come back and zip tie everything up, but have it coming down to where it drops out here by our electrical connector mounting bracket. We'll take the end of our wires now, and for our diodes, we'll just separate those into individual strands here. We want to strip back the ends of the insulation on all of our wires. And with the diodes, what I like to do, since we kind of cut in between them there, in case we nicked them or anything, I like to cut off a 1/4 inch or so to start fresh. But the way you strip back the insulation, just peel it back like that. Give that wire a good twist. I went ahead and took the rubber dust boot, put that over the bare end of the wires, and I just like to push it on there for now. It kind of keeps everything up. And I hooked up our charge line too. So if you're doing a charge line, it would go to the center post there, center terminal. And if you look at the back of this, they're going to be labeled. All right, so this one will be TM for taillights. So the brown wire will go there. This one is GD for ground, so the white wire goes there. LT for left turn, yellow wire. RT for right turn, green wire. And the way these work, you take a small screwdriver and you back out the set screw almost all the way. And then you just take the appropriate colored wire here. Just place it into the terminal end. And then just snug down the set screw. So I'll repeat the same process for the rest of our wires. This is the way the connector plug is going to look like with everything hooked up, diode wiring and our charge line. And what I like to do, I do this at the very end. Once everything is hooked up, I'll come back with some silicone and put it around these terminals to help prevent corrosion. But I like to wait to the end to do that, because if you have to get in here for any reason, to check anything or whatnot, you'll have a big mess to deal with. So that's why I do it that way. So for the time being, I'll just pop this on and mount this up to our base plate. When you mount this up too, piece of advice, if you put some anti-seize on the threads of these self-tapping screws, they're way less likely to get rusted in these little attachment points here. Back up in the engine compartment, what we can do is ground the white wire. So over here on the passenger side, we have a factory ground post, which will, that's definitely a good thing to utilize there. So I'm going to take our wire and cut it to length, and I'm just going to very carefully cut just the white wire. Peel those ends back here. And the end that's actually going to our connector there in the front, we're going to strip that back and crimp on a ring terminal. And this is how we're going to make all of our electrical connections, whether it be a ring terminal, a butt connector, spade terminal, what have you. We'll take the wire, twist it tight, take the terminal there, and we'll crimp it down. And then this factory nut, you can remove that with a 13 millimeter. You put the, get it underneath all these wires and everything. Put the terminal over that. And we'll reinstall the nut. Make sure it's tight. And as far as the remaining portion of the white wire that's still on our harness, we're just going to completely remove that, and we'll hold on to it. We'll probably use it later on in the installation, or even if not, you know, it's good to have, because when you're setting up these flat toes and everything, a lot of times you'll need some extra wiring. So just completely remove it, hold on to it, and then once I have that done, I'm going to continue to route the harness kind of down to the underside of our Jeep and towards the back. So once I get that done, I'll show you how I did it. Underneath the vehicle now, over here on the passenger side, this is where our wiring dropped down the firewall. And I just have it following some factory wiring here, and every now and again using a zip tie to keep it secure. And then this panel just makes it a lot easier to see what's going on. You know, there's just a handful of 10 millimeter head bolts you can pull out of there and kind of push this out of your way. But wiring's just going to follow that factory harness pretty much all the way back here. And then right here, you know, there's a lot of moving components and exhaust system and so on and so forth. What I did is I took our wiring and pushed it into the subframe. So it's actually running inside of our rear subframe. And what I did too is I just took a piece of wire loom, little plastic loom, you know, 6 or 8 inches of it, put it over there. That way it's not, you know, our wiring isn't rubbing up against the metal. And so it just feeds all the way through here. We're just going to come out right there. And again, I used another piece of wire loom so it comes right out of our subframe. And then I pushed it into this hole into the actual frame rail, pushed it through, and everything's going to drop out right here. Where it drops down, you know, there's a few things we need to do. You need to separate all the individual strands of wiring. You can take the brown and green one, and that's going to stay over here on the passenger side. All right, and then the yellow one is going to run over to the driver's side, as well as that extra piece of white wire that we held on to. I got that going over there as well with our yellow wire. And so what we're going to do here, this brown one, this is the one that's going to the passenger side. This end of the brown wire is coming all the way back from the front of our vehicle. And so what I've done is put a butt connector on there, and then the brown wire that's going all the way to the front, and the white wire that we added that's going over to the driver's side, you can strip those back, and you're going to twist the wires together nice and tight and put both ends into a butt connector. And I'm using a heat shrink style butt connector just because the ends will seal up and help protect against corrosion, but a standard butt connector will work fine. Just make sure you tape it up good. We'll get that crimped down, and then the way these heat shrinks work, you've made your connections, you just come back with a heat source and seal up the ends. What I did is we're going to leave our green and brown wire over here on the passenger side. I taped up our butt connector and just used some zip ties to secure it up. And the white and yellow wire, like I said, they're running the driver's side. I just ran it from behind her bumper there. There it comes over and up, and we're just going to let this hang for the time being, and until we get our taillights removed so we can pull our wire up into place. To get the taillights out, you can open up your hatch, and there's going to be this plastic cover here, and we need to remove that. There's just a push pin fastener here that you can get underneath with the flathead screwdriver. Just kind of work it loose. And then I'm just going to switch out to this trim tool here and get underneath of it. And work it out. These are really tight, so we'll pull that out. And then there's two more that we can't see that you kind of just have to work that panel off. So those will unsnap, and we can set this off to the side. There's going to be a T30 Torx bit fastener. Pull that out. And then you can grab your light, and you want to pull it kind of this way a little bit first, and then backing out. And I say it because these alignment pins, you know, the tail light's going to be pushed in that way. So once we have it free, we can disconnect it. It's going to have a red tab. You can just pull back on it like that, and then you can push down on the middle of the tab. That will separate the connector. We'll set our light off to the side and do the same thing to get the passenger one removed. I went ahead and was just electrical tape on the wiring. I removed that so it's easier to work with. And now we can test it to figure out what wire does what. We're looking for the tail light function. So I have our tail lights on, and I'm using a test light. And if we go through them, one of them should have power, which is that one there. And so the wire that we're going to be working with will be this white wire with a gray stripe. And it looks like there's two of them on this particular connector. We want to make sure to use the right one. So it's going to be that one there. And it's probably really hard to see, but there's a number 4, pin number 4. That's the one that we want to work with. So I'll turn our tail lights off before we cut into our wires here. I did tape up our wires that we're not using, the factory ones. That way that's done and we're not going to get mixed up or anything. But the one that we are going to use, we're going to trim it, cut it in half. Then each end, I'm going to strip that insulation back, twist the wire, and crimp on one of these spade terminals. Do the same thing for this one here. To get our wiring up into the tail light pocket, I'm just using a pull wire. So it's a piece of nylon tubing. I dropped down to the bottom side, taped a wire to it, and then we can pull it right up into position. And you know, you can take a metal coat hanger and straighten it out or something along those lines. You can actually pick this tubing up as well. It works really good right here from eTrailer if that's something you want to do. But get this up here and we'll get it cut to length. Our new yellow and white wire, like I said, I cut them to length, stripped them back, crimped on red terminals there. Then we can take our diode and the new yellow wire, that is going to plug into the RV brake in. The white wire will go to the RV tail in. And then car in, we can plug that into the side you're furthest away from the connector plug or factory wire there. And then car out, we'll go to the, the side closest to our connector plug. And then for this ground, the kit's going to come with a length of wire here, a little piece of white wire, crimp on a ring terminal on one end, spade terminal on the other end. We'll plug that in. And then I'm going to ground this probably right here in this area on a good clean solid piece of metal to work with. So they give you a self-tapping screw. And we'll get this secured down here. So what I did now, where the terminals actually plug into the diodes, I took some RTV sealer, just put a bead over it to, kind of glob everything on there, keep it sealed up. And then I removed the two-sided sticky tape off the back of the diode, and there's an upright here, plastic piece that I'm going to secure this to. I'm just sticking it in place. And when you do this, make sure that the surface is clean and dry. That way we'll get proper adhesion. And now we can plug our tail light back in the opposite way and get it reinstalled. If you're having a hard time getting the taillight back in just because of wire length, this connector is just kind of pushed into the taillight. If you pop that out, it gives you a lot more working room and makes it a lot easier to get the light back in. Moving to the passenger side, I got this one hooked up pretty much the same exact way. Really the only difference is going to be the wire color. So the factory taillight signal will be the white wire with the orange stripe. And again, pay attention, make sure it's at pin number 4. The same location as the driver's side. But that goes to, from our connector plug, the car out. We have our ground. That's all set up the same. The other end of the factory wire goes to car in. And then the brown wire will be, the new brown wire will be our RV tail. The new green wire will be the RV brake in. And with this all done, I'll come back, put my silicone on there, secure it inside and get the tail light back in. It's a good idea now to test our wiring to make sure that it's working properly. So I just plugged into a test box, which is going to simulate a motorhome. You can use your coach, but keep in mind if that has any issues, it might mislead you into thinking it's something you did on the vehicle side. But we'll go ahead and run through all of our functions. We'll try out our taillights. We'll turn on the left turn. We'll try our right turn and our brake lights. So that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Smart Diode Kit on our 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L.